or how is the construction sector's performance, given the fact that it was noted that there should be more transformation?
Thanks, Leanne. I think what we need to remember is that as early as 2009, the construction industry approached the DTI to have a sector code gazetted in terms of BE, in terms of the BE Act. What that effectively means is that the industry wanted to measure itself in accordance with the sector-specific scorecard. So what we're doing now, instead of thumb-sucking, or instead of having an overview, we're doing what is called a baseline report that seeks to understand the exact fact and figures, quality and quantity of the extent to which the industry has performed in terms of the scorecard. And we're running that baseline to request all construction registered companies and businesses to submit their scorecard and certificates to a dedicated email address, scorecard@cscc.org.za.
All right. Why, in your opinion, do you think that it's taken so long for this particular industry to transform?
Look, Leanne, it's been a number of factors. First, you had a situation where you had to deal with structural backlog, which the industry had to deal with. Secondly, you had to deal with issues of access, finance, and entrepreneurial capacity amongst black emerging players. You have not seen that happening a lot. You have seen a whole lot of bureaucratic requirements that people had to follow in order to play in the sector. You had to register with the CIDB, which is a grading system. You had to register with the NHBRC, and at the same time, you had the established businesses continuing to do business as usual. So I think it's about time that we take stock of what has happened since 2009. You remember we had 2010, the whole infrastructure boom where World Cup stadia, road infrastructure had to be built. But there was little attention paid in ensuring that there's facilitation of marriages between small black players and the wide established businesses. So it's about time that we need to have the qualitative stock of that process right now.
What about women in construction?
The Construction Sector Charter specifically and deliberately promote the participation of black women in particular, both in the ownership patterns, management, and the value chain of the construction sector. Not just women, but the youth and the disabled. Because as you would realize, Leanne, there is a public perception that because of its high-tech nature, that because of its labor-intensive nature, the construction projects and construction industry are not favorable to women and the disabled. We seek to dispel that and say, through various participating organizations, and in our council you have the South African Women in Construction, you have organizations such as Kutaza that are participating to ensure that they promote the participation of women. So we're saying we need to we don't only need to advocate that, but we need to see that happening practically through the projects and the initiatives that are taking place, both in the public and the private infrastructure development programs.
All right. Let's talk about another issue, and I think something that represents the tough time that the construction industry is going through, which is something that we were talking about a bit earlier. Aveng Chief Roger Jardine handing in his resignation yesterday with immediate effect, just saying after 5 years at the helm that following the conclusion of the Competition Commission's investigation into the construction industry, it was an appropriate time for him to step down. What do you think? It
came as a surprising, it came as a shock, but not a surprising shock, I must say, because throughout the Competition Commission investigation, I think the industry has taken a knock. It has been a serious indictment. It's been a tough time. You had mistrust. You had all sorts of finger pointing. But I think from our perspective, it was a good time. It was a good moment and good opportunity for the industry to cleanse itself, to rise above occasion and take responsibility for the misdemeanor that has happened previously. Because the long and short of what happened through so-called collusion is corruption at its best.
Absolutely.
It's corruption that resulted at small emerging players not having opportunities to gain access to infrastructure projects in this country, and it's it's regrettable and unforgivable. So we need to take this moment and say, let's reflect back on what happened. How do we ensure that this does not happen again? And let's move forward and give access to markets to those emerging players so that we can have an inclusive growth in the industry.
All right. Thabo Masombuka, CEO of the Construction Sector Charter Council, thank you very much for joining us here on Morning Live.
It's my pleasure.